Ladies and gentlemen, this is David Mirikitani with another episode of Weighing In, brought to you by USA Wrestling, the national governing body for wrestling in the United States, and by Nike Wrestling. Go to athleteps.com for all of your Nike and USA Wrestling branded gear. Fresh on the athleteps.com website, GT, are the new Olympic color towels. They look really, really nice. Obviously, you guys came out with the Inflix. I assume those suckers are selling like hotcakes, but we'll do what we can to tell people if you want a really great shoe in a really awesome color, take a look. So the boys and I are back from Iowa. They actually live in Iowa, so it was a lot easier trip for them than me. Record viewership. The dual meet did 363,000 views. The Brands Brothers Big Ten special did 175,000 views, and some number slightly less than that was the number of views that our live podcast got. So we do need to thank somewhere between 0 and 174,999 was our number. I know I speak for Mark and GT when we want to thank Hawkeye Wrestling Club, want to thank Chad Beatty, want to thank Joe's Place, want to thank the managers there. Really fun thing we did. Some minor technical difficulties, but overall, we've gotten a ton of positive feedback. We're going to try to do this again down the line, but please feel free to DM any of us. GT, I'll start with you. What were your thoughts on the weekend? And please include your polar plunge experience somewhere along, whether that's beginning or chronological order.
Well, Iowa City puts on a great show, number one versus number two. The atmosphere was amazing. Carver was packed. It was just a great Friday night for wrestling. As you said, the viewership for both the duel and then the Brands documentary afterwards was like Big Ten Network's highest rated event. So, and, the wrestling was, I'd say, above average. It was great. I mean, it was national finals. National finals matches, rematches, super tight matches. Guys you didn't think were going to be in the lineup were in the lineup. Last second takedowns, last second scrambles. So the wrestling part was great for everybody. I would say that there was probably like 1 to 5 navy blue articles of clothing in the entire arena. So very much an Iowa fan base that had shelled out for this event. So kudos to those guys. And then, of course, the Hawkeye Wrestling Club, thank them for all of the efforts that they put in for our podcast and live show there at Joe's Place. And then follow that up with the Saturday Arctic Plunge for the HWC fundraising efforts. Really cool event. They did such a great job with all of the contestants, all the jumpers. Raised a lot of money for them. So very cool event to be a part of. Anytime that you jump into a frozen lake where they have EMTs and firefighters in the water just in case you don't make it out is an experience that I would think that everybody would want to go enjoy.
That's the, isn't that called the Mark Ostrander evacuation plan? Isn't that what that was officially titled?
Something like that.
So, all right. So tell me about that. And then I want your overall impression of the duel, like from an Iowa Penn State perspective. So we had Beatty on, and Mark's known Beatty probably the longest of any of us, but it's essentially a fundraiser. It's like, basically it's like a 10K, like where you say, hey, somebody pay me $10 a mile to do this walk or run. And, you raise $60 for XYZ Foundation. So people basically sponsor people to jump in this thing. The number I saw was like 180K that they raised.
Yep.
Just tell me about the experience, because you and Goodell kind of found out last minute you were doing this, right? I want to know why you're walking around with a singlet. You just happen to have a singlet with you. You just ready to go at all times?
Ready to go at all times. I mean, I always have my shoes in the car. I got my singlet in the back seat just in case everybody wants to challenge me on the outside.
No.
I mean, as far as the event is concerned, I mean, you're 100% accurate on the walkathon or whatever it is that you have a web page that you basically sponsor yourself and people can donate to see you do this for the HWC, and they give a a charitable contribution to help them out. And then of course there's like raffles and other things, just like a normal like golf outing or fundraising function. So, I mean, there's multiple ways to give. You don't have to jump. You can basically donate for someone to jump on your behalf. We had some people that couldn't make the event, so they had someone jump for them. So there was.
That's the move right there. Like, I had a tea time.
Yeah, exactly. I had something else going on, can't be there. I need you to jump for me.
What'd you think? So obviously we love the wrestling and the environment. Just maybe, a couple minute assessment on if you're optimistic Iowa, what do you take away from it? If you're optimistic Penn State, you take away from it, or just observations on matches, because you're a really smart guy. And, obviously we didn't touch base after the meet, and we watched some different perspectives. So
I think probably the top three highlight things that I would take away from the meet was that AD wrestled probably the best match he's wrestled against RBY in the past couple of years. I was very impressed with that level of competition between those two athletes. RBY is really hard to score on. AD shot about 1 billion times. So it's probably the best opportunity he had to beat Roman. So great match. Kudos to those guys to put it out there, wrestled a full 7. I'd say the other two takeaways was that Cassiope did a great job against Kirkfleet, and just, kind of wrestled a little bit more solid than Greg. But that would be a great takeaway because he had just beat Mason Paris. So that's riding high a little bit. And, Tony got the big dub there at the end. And then I would say that the third observation or thing from the duel was the national finals rematches. Super close. Those guys are right on the edge of each other. So watch for those things come through Big Ten championships. And then again, at the NCAAs, those guys are right at each other. Great matches. If you haven't watched the duel, go back and watch those matches. Not going to give it away, but those are tight matches.
Yeah. Marco, first of all, thank you for lunch while I was up there. We don't see each other as often as we would like. Great seeing you in person. Great seeing your brother, who I think we both might like more than we like each other. So shout out to Chuck. Yeah. I'm teasing, but it was great seeing Chuck. It
was Jim.
Jim, sorry. I get them mixed up. My bad.
I know.
Great meet. Unbelievable. So you're watching with Jim, and you're a guy. First of all, well done on the Herky the Hawk move. Okay. The fans went crazy for you. You are the spirit of Iowa. What were your thoughts on the meet?
Meet. Probably one of the best duels I've ever seen. Very similar to 2 years ago when Penn State came into Iowa. The emotions that you go through watching this meet. I mean, Iowa got down and they wrestled. I thought both teams wrestled pretty well. I don't think it was their best performance by either team, but I think under the pressure that they were both under, knowing what was at risk and what was at stake at the time, I thought they performed. 25, I like to see what Drake Ayala can do against, Penn State there, because Hildebrandt's tough. I mean, he's hard to score on, stays in good position, good on top. And we knew that going in, and we had picked him to win if he was going to wrestle Ibarra. And we're kind of mixed a little bit with Drake. I think everybody kind of thought he might beat Drake, but it would be a 1 point match, maybe a 2 point match, somewhere in there. DeSanto, RBY, it was fun to watch. You didn't know what was going on. The stalling calls, getting a point early, being up 1-0 after the first period. DeSanto gets out right away in the second period. So, I mean, he was there. He's got to be able to finish. And his first shot, he looked like he might have been able to. After that, he was in on that single leg time and time again. And it was the same scenario that has been the last 2 years. Didn't even come close to scoring on it. He's got to be able to get to his feet and do something a little different. He got in a seatbelt position once, and he got a push out. And that was one of the warnings. I think he could have probably got to that more and tried to force the issue a little bit. Ironman and Lee was a great match. Lee's good. Lee is a stud. And Jane went out and did what he could. It's going to be hard to beat Lee at 141. It really is.
Well, Ironman made two mistakes, though. He tried that chest wrap, which he just gave away to, and then he just relaxed on the edge of the mat at the end of the period.
Yep.
And all three of us talk about the difference between 1 point and 2 point takedowns. But I mean, obviously he did a great job coming back and getting to overtime, but you know, he gave 2 takedowns away, just gave them away.
Yep, I agree. I guess Murin, I really enjoyed watching that match. I think Murin's going to be really hard to score on for a lot of guys, especially what he did with Sammy the week before, losing by a point right toward the end. Caleb Young he just doesn't have an offense, which is amazing to me. I thought he was better on his feet than what he showed. I still think he is, but I think Iowa did a pretty good job on top. Up and down the lineup, they wrestle pretty well on top. Marinelli, of all the guys, really impressed me this weekend, going out and beating a kid that, you know, a lot of people think is going to place, you know, top 8. And, you know, he majored him. So I think that kind of might be a little harder for him to place now at that weight because it's such a good weight. Kemmer Shirachi, probably one of the best matches for no scoring, almost absolutely no scoring in the whole match, no takedown. But it was so much fun to watch. These guys got after it. Shirachi was able to get in, couldn't finish, almost got scored on a few times. I know it's questionable whether he had the takedown with the Merkel. You know, it could go either way. I could see why they think he had it. I can also see, you know, why they think he didn't have it. So kind of hard to say. 84, they're just better than Iowa right now. But he never quit. You know, he kept the pace up, and I think Penn State got a little tired there, you know, in the third period. So it could have been a major, and it wasn't. So that was good. Warner stopped wrestling like he has. I think a couple of us called this at the outing that we had, David, at the, you know, Joe's place, is that this match was going to be decided in the last 30 seconds, and that's exactly what happened. He was up by 2 with 30 seconds left, gets taken down, then gets ridden out and put to his back. And Cassiope, I thought he wrestled well. I thought he adapted to what Greg was showing him after that nice double right off. You're thinking, oh boy, this could be trouble. And he was able to adjust and score some big body locks to his back twice, didn't get back points, but, you know, made a statement there. I guess my takeaway at heavyweight is not where they're going to be ranked, David, because I'm not sure how that's going to, you know, pan out. How are they going to be seated at the Big Ten? That's kind of what I'm really looking forward to seeing.
Yeah,
what's
and
going to happen.
we'll get into that part when we get into the weights, because it's a super interesting story. Because
Yeah.
obviously it's like, you know, Gable and everybody else, and you'd rather be 2, 3, you know, 6 or 7 than 4 or 5. So
Yeah.
I'll work backwards. So at heavyweight, I couldn't have been more wrong. Like Kirkfleet scores the first takedown, and I'm sitting next to Keck. I'm like, man, like he's gonna win this because he took him down so easy, right? And you're just like, oh my God. Cassiope, you guys have coached, GT, you're still coaching. One of the most important traits to recruit in a kid is a kid that can make a mid-match adjustment, either with a quick yell to him, a quick signal when he goes out of bounds, or just on his or her own intellect. Cassiope figured out on the second scramble, after he gave up the takedown, there's a shot or reshot, and they get it the body lock, and Kirkfleet wants no part of it. And he figured that out, got a takedown, and then the same thing. And then Kirkfleet gets in, instead of going, both times he tried to go offense and got countered. And Kirkfleet tried to do that Gelagayev, that inside step, where either you throw it or twist with it or go hip toss the other way. They will adjust. Penn State will adjust. I mean, they got the best big guy coaches in the room. They're just in the country. They're going to go, you don't need to do anything here. Just shoulder dip, get your shoulder lower than the other guy. And if you have to, go out of bounds and, circle to your underhook, not your overhook, so you don't get thrown. But we're going to make that guy beat us. We're not going to beat ourselves. 97 to me was complete other match. Like Warner gets the first takedown. It looks for all the world like he's going to beat Dean. And I'm doing the math in my head. I don't know if you guys were, but if Iowa had won 97 in heavyweight by 1 point each, the duel would have been tied. 16-16, 4 decisions, 1 major, match points tied. And you got to go through and look at criteria. It's got to be like most number of near fall or first takedown or something. I don't know what it is, but I mean, it's like the 9th criteria. So 84, not a lot to talk about. 74, I'll just say this. They got all the calls right. And they got to get better timekeepers. Like, I understand it's like, being an umpire, they only yell at the stuff you did wrong. These, like, they ran the clock from 6 seconds and it just went up to 42. Like that can't happen. That can't happen. Because the other thing is it affects the cardio of both guys. I don't know who's in better shape, but it helps the guy who's in worse shape. 65, Marinelli looked great. 57. The only other 41, that's a whole different, it's a very interesting match because Lee feels like he's the favorite, but he's losing that match 1-0 every time he starts because he's not going to pick down. So he's got to get 2 takedowns or he's got to get an end of the period takedown to win the match. So, I mean, that's interesting. Just the DeSanto RBY match, I think it's who's your perspective, right? Like if you're GT, if you're coaching DeSanto, you're like, look, man, all you got to do is finish 1 shot and you win this match. If you're RBY, you're like, you can't wrestle any worse than you did, and you won in his house. So this guy's never going to beat you. And you know what they say, whatever you think is right, right? If you think you're going to win, you got a chance to win. If you think you're going to lose, you've already lost. So Hildebrandt's very interesting to me. We talked about this last week when we proved right. There's these top 4 guys, and then it's a whole mishmash for the bottom, like 5 through 8 on who's going to end up there. And he could be there, or he could be around to 12. His style is really interesting. I will say this, DeSanto's got to be careful, man. He put his hands on the ref, and, there's some memes out there. I think Rivera did a good job in that match of not pointing him, but he could have. He easily could have pointed him. You're not supposed to touch the ref, period. And we were sitting on the side by the Penn State bench, and he definitely cheap shot at RBY twice going out of bounds. And you got to be like, that's not being careful. Like, don't do that. You're going to lose the match doing that. So, and then the last thing, which Mark, I talked to you about off the air, was normally Cale Sanderson is super, super positive in his press conferences. He was ticked off, and he was ticked off. The real question in my mind is why? Like, did those guys have a bad week of training? Did somebody do something they weren't supposed to do? But he talked about they've been on the road. They found a way to win, and now they're going to be home for a while, and they're going to taper them down and peak them and everything else. But I couldn't agree more with you guys. Awesome dual meet. Awesome experience. Being on the floor was super cool. And RBY's ankle was taped. I don't know if you guys saw that. But when he came out in the second half, he had like slippers on. So I don't know if that had anything to do with him not performing quite as well. But that's just something to keep an eye out. And I want to give a quick thanks to, we mentioned Beatty, to Shane Goodell, Jason Keck, and Cody Goodwin, all awesome guests on the pod. All did a great job. First time I've really talked to Goodwin for any period of time, but young guy with great energy. So obviously, we know Shane from Athlete PS and Nike, and we know Keck from all the pods and everything else. But want to thank those guys for that. So, okay, the next biggest news, which is almost like a negative news, is Oklahoma State lost back-to-back home duels for the first time since 1993. We're not going to break all these matches down because we're going to run out of time. We still got to talk about the rankings and everything else. And we're going to get into the rankings, but Michigan, Misek falls out of the rankings. Bruckey falls out of the rankings. And I say out of the rankings, out of the top 8, out of the All-American rankings. Whitlake loses. Mastro loses. Plott gets pinned. It feels like And GT, you said this in September or October, and it looked for a while like you were wrong. I think you're going to be right. 110 is probably going to win this thing. Like if there's a regression to the mean, all these teams are coming back. You're going to see a ton of teams, I think, not a ton, but a vast majority of teams between 2 to 5 All-Americans. I don't think we're going to see maybe 2 teams with 6 or more. Maybe one, so, I mean, and that 4th place trophy, that 3rd place trophy is crazy. And listen, you guys know, I have a lot of friends at Oklahoma State. Ferrari did not cost them that dual meet. That it wouldn't have mattered, because in the one match, they won it at 197. Against Iowa State, they won. Or not, against Northern Iowa, excuse me, they won.
No.
So, I mean, I guess if you say he pins guys, but he doesn't pin guys. For the most part, he doesn't. So, all right, we're going to share screen here. So we are recording on Wednesday rather than Thursday. So we don't have the composite rankings, which is my fault because I'm going to Kansas City this weekend. Please, people, say a prayer with the snowstorm here. I'm doing the play-by-play tomorrow for the Ottawa St. Mary's meet, 2 teams GT is familiar with, and then coaching a big MMA fight on Sunday that Dana White's actually looking to sign people to contract. So another fun road weekend for your boy. So these are wins rankings, and I don't know that the rankings matter as much as just the change. So for example, you see Mastro drop from 5 to 8, and you see that the 14th guy dropped completely out, and Terrakina comes in. If you combine this with the Flow article, so these are the major upsets. Terrakina beats Mastro, Prada beats Terrakina, and Mastro has already beaten Prada. So this is, what do we used to call this, Mark? The Ranker's Delight, where everybody's beating everybody. The circle of inconsistency. Then Heil beats Ferrari. I mean, I don't know that that's a big one. Those are, change a lot. So 25. Now Cardinale's number 5. GT, I'll ask you this. If you had to pick a guy to place 5th, and I will make the assumption that some combo of Arujau, Soriano, Glory, Courtney are top 4, who would you pick for 5th?
I'd say Pat McKee.
Because he's been there, right?
Yeah, just because he's been there. But I think also, if I'm going to not take Pat McKee, I'd take a healthy Brody Teske. Because I know that he's been banged up for a lot of the season, but he's getting back into it a little bit. And I think that's why his ranking is that far down. So I would take those 2.
And these rankings are interesting because unless I'm going blind, I don't see Ayala's name in here.
Yeah, I don't either.
And his name needs to be in there. So, I mean, shout out to Win. I love those guys, but you got to have Ayala in there. All right.
What about Lamont?
I think Lamont's a very interesting guy at that weight class because I think, once again, you kind of lose track of him a little bit because he's not in the forefront of maybe the Big Ten conversation all the time, and then with the Big 12, Mastro is probably the best guy in that weight class as far as, whatever seeds are concerned. But you probably hear a lot more of him after Big 12s and then into the NCAA conversation. Because if he goes there and wins it or gets in the finals, I think a lot more guys are going to be a little bit higher on him.
Yeah.
But Lamont's a beast.
Which is what he did last year, GT. He won, it's exactly right. There's no shine in Utah Valley, so.
It's just harder to watch or keep up with those guys, man. They're monsters, but just never get to see them very often.
Yeah. And speaking of Utah Valley, Hayden Drury had a good weekend. So, he's in the rankings. So here's the upsets at 33. Iowa State beats Madrigal. Biscaglia beats Madrigal. Hernandez loses twice. And then Coderhant, who's from around my neck of the woods, loses to Rini. So we go here. So the big, I don't know if you call it an upset, but Bird beat Cannon. So that's why you see a flip-flop there. Mark, let me ask you this. If you're coaching Michigan, because Misek lost again, and I understand how much they like Ragusin, but do you pull Misek down to 33? Because if you're looking at team points right now, Ragusin's 8th and Misek's out of the mix. If you put Misek in, wouldn't he be ranked 3rd?
Well, probably, but here's the problem with that, David, is you don't have time to pull him down. Because
That's not true. That's not
well,
true.
let's put it this way. He's been weighing in at 141. Realistically, it's 141. So it's going to take him at least 3 weeks, maybe 4, to get down to 133 by the rules. So that puts you, his first wrestling will be the Big Ten tournament. Now,
Okay, let me ask you another way. Let's say he
Okay.
weighs 100. He's been weighing in at 137 pounds. So he can get
let's
down
say
to 2
that.
weeks.
Okay.
I'm trying to ask you a real question, not it can't be done because of what he weighs. So I'm just asking you a question. Like, if you were coaching, if the weight was not an issue, what would you do? Because they have a 41 pounder who is wrestling pretty well.
I like Dylan Ragusin. I think they set their lineup. This is what they wanted to do. I think they're just going to stick with it. So
Again, that's not what I'm asking. What would you do?
if you ask me if I was their coach,
Yeah.
they set their lineup. You go with what you got. Try to make what you wanted to do at the beginning of the year. Try to make it happen, and go with it. So no, I wouldn't move them down.
I'm going to take the other side of it. The national tournament's about scoring big points with as many guys as possible. And I had 2 Division I coaches tell me, like, as good as Misek is, he's too small for 41. And I think you're seeing it because he's just losing to guys that skill-wise he's not as good as. I mean, that he's better than, rather. They're not as good as him. So I think it's a real thing to think about, because when we get to the team rankings, which you helped us put together this week, Mark,
Yeah.
There's a big difference now between, where those guys are. And if they took out both of their points and added in 13 and a half.
Yeah.
So, all right, 41. So Simon moves up. And I mean, for the most part, Misek, there we go. He was 10th. Now he's 16th. I mean, then people got him all over. I saw another place had him like 9th or 11th, but nobody's got him in the top 8 anymore. And, he's going to, and there's some other like handcuffs there, like we talked about last week, and Keyshawn Clark is still just hanging around and he's going to move up. So go to 4. Oh, and GT, I saw this. I don't have it all memorized, but Chad Redd, like in the next 4 weeks, basically wrestles everybody good left in the Big Tens. So, I mean, and the funny thing is Chad Redd could lose 3 of those matches and it wouldn't even hurt his ranking, right? Like he could lose to Lee, Ironman, Rivera, and he's not going to really drop. I mean, his win percentage would drop, but he wouldn't drop in the coach's ranking, and he wouldn't drop that. So, all right, I'll say this: GT, buy or sell. Chad Redd beats one of those 3 guys before the end of the regular season, like pulls one upset.
I'll take that. Once again, Chad Redd, postseason Chad Redd, it's like Hoodie Mello. Like, don't mess with that dude. Like, he's coming for it. So I mean, if he doesn't, he's okay, but he's that dangerous that any of those matches he could get one.
Yeah, I agree with you. He is that dangerous. And I know Nebraska is not a Nike school, but that guy brings more pairs of shoes to nationals than anybody, changing them every round.
Gotta love him for it.
Gotta respect the game, right? So 49, very little change in the top 13 or 14. Dagan. So this Willie McDougall kid is winning matches. He beat Edmond, he beat Dagan. And the weird thing about this for Oklahoma is there's no Moses Schwartz right now, and there's no Demas wrestling, and there's no Mitch Moore wrestling. So they got 3 guys on paper that are all better than this guy. This guy's from New York, wasn't a big recruit. I mean, was good, but wasn't like a top tier recruit. And he's taken advantage of his opportunity. I see Bartlett's name in here, and both of you guys have said this to me, and I agree. I think Bartlett's just small for 149. Like, and length is a problem, and length is a problem for him when he's on bottom. Like, he's getting smothered and he's losing matches that way. And, if you're worried about either like, hey, I get out, you get out, but you got riding time. Now I got to get a takedown or I don't get out at all. That gets in your head before the match starts and it changes how you wrestle on your feet. So
David, am I missing something here? Is did Gomez lose to somebody that he shouldn't have lost to?
no, these are probably wrong.
Okay. I know he beat Lovett in the duel 2 weeks ago. So I'm trying to figure out why he would.
They
be
got to
behind
have, we've talked about this for years, Mark, when you're one slot apart and you wrestle
I'm
head
not
to
mad.
head.
I'm not mad. I'm not going to blow a lid.
We're actually fine when you blow your cap. Like it's actually
Come on,
awesome.
this is ridiculous.
All right, I'm going to keep it moving because we're going to try to pick Oklahoma State, Mizzou. I got to go back and look at who owes who wings for Iowa. I know it's either Grant or I won because Mark picked everybody on Iowa, so I know he didn't win that one. So we got to look and see.
I was this close to winning it all.
You're also this close to paying one of us for wings.
I think back looking at it, I think almost every single one of us lost 2 matches. I think like the worst that anybody did was lose 3 matches out of the duel.
Oh no, I lost 3.
Yeah.
I think Mark lost 4 because he picked Iowa to sweep.
No, I didn't pick him.
I'm joking.
I got the first 2 right.
You picked
then
DeSanto.
Oh, that's right. I got the
And you
first
picked
one.
Ironman. And you
Yeah,
picked Kemmer. And you picked Warner. That's
Okay,
4 right there.
I got 4 wrong. Okay, give me
That's
a break.
at least 4 that I can think of.
There weren't any others because Iowa did win 4 weights. So I had those 4. Plus I had 84 for Penn State and 25 for Penn State. So there's 6. So I went 6 and 4. Yep. But I was that close.
Yeah, 100% distant third for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can buy GT and I a plate. We'll split it. So, all right. 57. Sheets loses. So that drops him down. And that was a big loss in the UNI duel. So, but not a lot of change here. 65. Whitlake loses. He drops from 6 to 8. So Hamidi Marinelli this weekend, probably for the number 2 seed in the Big Ten. So I think this is where we figure out if Hamidi's for real. So Mark, you're really good at this. What would you set the point spread for Hamidi Bull?
Marinelli plus
No, minus.
or minus 2 or 3. I'm not sure yet. I think Marinelli, okay. I don't think he can score on his feet with them. And I think Marinelli's going to get a few takedowns. And Marinelli's wrestled some of the best kids that are on top, like Evan Wick. And I know Wick turned him his freshman year, but really nobody's cradled him and put him to his back since then. So I just don't really see it happening. I think Marinelli's just too strong for him. As a true freshman, I think Marinelli's just a little bit too good right now.
All right, I'm scrolling. GT, if Mark sets the line at -2.5, who are you taking, Bull or Hamidi? If you take Bull, he's got to win by 3.
Bull.
All right. Like, that's what I like, a succinct answer. There you go. All right. 74, big news. Plot got pinned. You know, that's the main changer there. 84, Marcus Coleman, former border brawler, sneaky good year. Really good year. Looking good, winning matches. So him and Keckheisen will be the top 2 seeds in all likelihood at the Big 12s, which I'm excited to be there for. 97, just chaos. So there's about 4 guys that you could rank here second. I mean, we thought it would be Schultz. Max Dean has lost, though. Buchanan beat Schultz, but he has other losses. Buchanan beat Elam this weekend, and Elam got the only takedown. Buchanan got 2 escapes and rode him the whole third period. So that match is complete, or that weight is complete chaos. If you're doing your fantasy wrestling picks, figure out who's coming out of the bottom half of that bracket. And if Ferrari's not healthy, good Lord on who's going to, anybody could be seated at number 1 at nationals. Heavyweight. So we'll talk about this briefly because I want to get to the Oklahoma State Mizzou picks. This is exactly what I thought it would be. Schultz 2, Cassiope 3, Kirk 4, Paris 5. And where this bodes the best for everybody is Schultz, and Schultz not wrestling Kirkfleet at those collegiate duels was a good move. If he beats him, it doesn't help him. And if he lost to him, he'd be at the bottom of this. Like he would be, Cassiope would be 2, Kirk would be 3. And I think they would make Paris 4 because he placed ahead of Schultz last year. And Schultz would go from 2 to 5. So Arizona State needs a guy that can make the finals to, for the team race. I'm not saying he can, but he only has to wrestle as of now, Cassiope, if these were the seeds at nationals. All right, so we are going to go to, before we get to this, Eric Burnett, one of the best high school coaches in the country, is retiring from malaria. Just great human being, always super kind to me at junior duels. Want to say hi to that. Jerron Smith with a big win at 197s against Brucky. We didn't talk about that, but that was a good win for them. He actually just got excited and they team pointed him. So Maryland got shut out beside that match and only got 2 points instead of 3. So I need to go text Alex Clemson and tease him because of that. So let's pick. There's some really good duels this weekend, but this is the duel I wanted to pick. So we're going to do it. Plus, I think there's a lot of matches here that could go either way, frankly. So we got Mark, we got GT, we got me. We'll do it by weight and we'll go in, we'll rotate the order. Mark, who you got at 25?
Mastro.
And it's a decision unless you tell me differently.
Yep.
GT.
We'll take Mastro.
I'm telling you guys in advance, I'm picking everybody that wrestled in Border Brawl at any point. So I'm taking certain. Okay. 33, GT, you're first. We're going to rotate.
I'm going to take Fix for a major decision.
Actually, I'm going to do this way. So it's, this is Oklahoma State, and Mizzou. That way we're way better. All right. You got Fix +1.
Yep.
I got Fix. I'm going to say Fix +2. Mark.
I'm going to say Fix +1.
All right. I'll go first here. Hart and Carter Young. I'm going to take Hart by decision. Mark.
Hart.
GT.
Take Hart.
Mark. In what should be a fascinating match, Edmund G. Feller.
Edmund, decision.
Okay. I think that is an upset. I'm sorry. You said Edmund, right?
Yes.
Okay. GT.
I'm taking G. Feller.
I am going to pick G. Feller. I think that's a toss-up in a critical match. Okay. GT, JQs, and Sheets. Both of them had super up and down seasons so far.
I'll take Sheets.
I have to take JQs because he was in my meet.
I gotta go Sheets.
Okay. All right. So 65. Really hoping O'Toole wrestles. He's been banged up, hasn't been wrestling. But if so, I'm taking Mizzou. Mark.
I'm gonna take O'Toole major or fall. I don't
Which
know.
one?
Oh, I'm gonna go major.
GT.
I'm taking O'Toole.
Okay.
Just a
So,
decision.
Yep, just a decision.
Okay.
all right. So Mark, you're first here. Probably maybe Peyton Mako, but Sean Harmon has been filling in and he just beat Hayden Hastings, who was ranked 11th. So then Mizzou, one of the most impressive teams in the country when it comes to depth.
I'm gonna go Plot just because I think he's better.
That's a good reason to pick a guy.
Yeah, well, he was winning against you and I got, I don't know how he got cradled. He didn't even do anything, but he just kind of sat there and waited for it to happen. But
Runyon's kind of dangerous. We've talked about that for sure.
yeah, but you'd think the guy would at least go to a hip or do something, try to straighten the leg. He just kind of stood there until he got it. Then he went over and got pinned. It took forever, but
Yeah.
I think Plot's better.
All right, GT, who you got?
I'm going to take Plot.
As will I. GT, Jeremiah Kent, Dakota Gear. Another match where the rankings are really close and really important to the duel.
I'll take Gear.
I coached Jeremiah at the Southern Scuffle. So based on the all biased picks, I'm taking him. Mark.
Oh, I gotta go Gear.
Okay. I will cheat. Both the Elims were in my meet, so I'm picking them. So, Mark, go ahead.
Elam Major.
Oh, actually, I will take Elam by major. Sorry.
Oh,
read-
okay. Now you
Well,
do it.
I looked at Ferrari. I thought it was Ferrari for a second. All right. GT,
I'll take Elam.
decision.
Decision.
All right. GT, Elam or Cerber?
Elam. Just regular decision.
Mark.
Same, Elam.
Okay. So let's see. You got Oklahoma State winning 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with one bonus. You got it 16. And then you got Mizzou 17, 16. Okay.
Okay.
GT's got Oklahoma State winning 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 with one. You got a 19-12 OSU. I've got it. I got Mizzou winning 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, which I'm guaranteed to be wrong. There's no way they're winning 7 matches.
Hey, David.
Yeah.
Grant has Mizzou winning 4 matches. Am I
Yeah,
missing something?
Yeah, I got 19-12 Oklahoma State.
No, he's got the. All right, what am I missing here?
I got
Nothing.
6-4.
You got a
Okay.
6-4 Oklahoma State. That's 18-12.
I got a 5-5.
Oklahoma.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now I got to start all over. All right. Mizzou's winning 7 matches. I got them. So that's 21. I got Oklahoma State winning 3, 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 21, 11. Oh, I actually think Mark's picks are probably the closest to because it's in the middle. But,
Has Mizzou won 7 matches this year against anybody?
yes. A bunch
Okay,
of
I
teams.
just wondered.
They,
All right, just
no,
checking.
like they were killing some teams.
All right.
Easy there, Sparky. Let me see if there's anything else. Glory versus Vito. We'll just pick that match real quick. Who you got, GT?
I think Glory.
Mark?
Glory.
All right. One of Mark's favorite guys, Vogar. So I'm going to take Vito. So
Of course you are.
it's no fun if we agree. It's no fun on this show if we agree. So, we'll review the team rankings real quick. I didn't get there. My bad. Hold on. Okay. Wait, I got a screen share. I don't think I screen shared. Hold on. All right. So the tiers have changed. Iowa or Penn State clearly on a tier. I don't know if there's like a third. Iowa, Michigan almost, I mean, you're 18 points apart. This almost feels like a whole nother tier. But then the battle for 4th is on. I mean, you got 9 points, 8 points separating Ohio State and Arizona State. And again, if you take Oklahoma, if you take Ferrari out of there, they're behind Iowa State. And this is another thing to understand, like dual meets don't do a lot to change individual rankings because Oklahoma State's still ranked above Iowa State, still ranked way above UNI. A team I think we're sleeping on, we've slept on them all year, is North Carolina State. They got a lot of dudes that can do some things. You know, we don't talk about them a bunch because they're out in the ACC, but the team rankings, and this is again, GT, you are right. I don't think, I'll put it to you this way. If somebody said Penn State's going to score 115 points just on placement points, I would bet the under all day because they'd have to wrestle almost perfect to do that. And, you know, again, like if RBY lost a match, it wouldn't shock you. You know, Nick Lee went into overtime. It wouldn't shock you. Starachi went into overtime. It wouldn't shock you. 84 is really good. I mean, Brooks is really good, you know, and then Max Dean is ranked as high as he can be ranked in a weight that's complete chaos. So, you know, a couple of these guys fell off. I mean, we'll talk next week because we're about out of time, but I think how they do this, how many points they do for team points without bonus would be a really interesting number to pick. So I'm going to be selfish, give a shout out to my boy, David Evans, who's fighting Sunday. Proud to be in your corner. Let's go do work. For Mark and Grant, I'm David. We'll talk to you all next week.